Day before yesterday, I was talking to a 18-year-old. We were standing on the road for around 5-7 minutes, waiting for some uh, hotel parcel that she had to take home. And I was dropping her home, and we were standing, and I landed up saying a line, "You guys don't live really." Um, and then she turned around and she said, "What do you mean by this?" So we were standing at a place where we had to cross an entire road if we wanted to have a juice on the other side. There was a juice shop. I said, say for example, if you had to go and have that juice, you would have to cross the road. And if you cross the road, these guys are driving like maniacs, some of them. Uh, you might get angry, you may either retort or say something, or you may be very mindful of how you cross because you don't want to be caught in an accident. Somehow you reach the other side of the road, you got to pay that guy has to give it to you in the time that you seek. The juice has to be up to the mark that you wanted, and all those experiences are happening. So that is kind of a lived experience that we can all agree that is happening. I said with the model of life that we are all living of late, um, everything is available on the mobile. You just click, your money gets deducted. The guy is at your place. You get your juice in your hand. Uh, all the other experiences are really cut off. She said, "Oh, that way." And we didn't have. She received a call, and I was also busy on something else. So the conversation was dropped halfway through. Uh, Meanwhile, a provocation by my guest today, a couple of days back on WhatsApp, which was about micromanagement and macromanagement. To put it very uh, open-endedly, it was far more deeper and in detail, but I want to just focus on this aspect of it. Uh, we all have a role to play in the world, uh, and we are playing several roles at different times. Very often we get caught with what I am supposed to do about myself, rather than really look at the big picture of uh, what needs to be done uh, as per all of us, uh, so that it benefits all of us or at least pacifies all of us in some good way. Uh, these are the first thoughts that I have for this podcast on this Sunday morning. Uh, and before I get into this, thank you, Hemant Gupta, for joining me again. Uh, I'm so blessed to have you uh, on call, literally. Whenever you're free, you never say no. And these kind of invocations are very fragile. So I may have this thought. So I had this thought day before that it is an important thought, but I did not give it any more consideration. Luckily, we are talking today, and welcome to the show, Hemant.
Thanks, Bunty. I think it's always, I feel that a lot gets discovered for me too during our conversation. So I think I can only be grateful that you invite me. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I think the gratitude is mutual for sure. Uh, when does one focus on one's own need vis-a-vis the larger picture? I want to just start on this small note. How do I know what is the decision I ought to take in this moment, uh, and what is the perspective I need to have?
I think you've asked a question which has a very simple answer. And the simple answer is that when we wrote our first book, we discovered that almost about 16 to 17 crore books have been written on this planet till date. We just need to read all of them and then we'll get an answer. On a more serious note, I think there are this whole idea of the act of choosing, the act of deciding, stands at an inflection point of all the past decisions and all the future possible decisions. So, this decision, whatever the decision is, has some kind of connection, relationship, path that it has come to from the past. The decisions that we would have taken in the past ourselves or others would have taken for us, the culture that we live in which those decisions were either supported or not supported, whether the decisions worked out or not, did not work out. And a combination of all of that gives us this particular wave that we look at of this decision, whatever is the decision. And similarly, then this decision will have an impact on the future decisions and future options, future strategies of life. So I think on one hand, I think the thing is to become aware uh, that decisions are interrelated to many decisions of past and future. And in that sense, uh, we really don't have beyond what we can do and choose because the outcomes are not in our hand. Outcomes depend on a lot of other factors, biological, psychological, emotional, social, political, economical, environmental, legal, technological. And those things, when they synchronize in a manner, it turns out that our decision has either worked out or not worked out. Having said that, one need not give up agency, one need not give up karma, and still work on reflecting on the decision before taking some decisions. Because, for example, suppose somebody decides to get married. Now, that one decision has so many other related decisions, children, relationships with other married couples or their children, um, providing for the entire family. So that one decision that somebody took or did not take or was thrown into has subsequent decision chain linked to it. So there are, of course, certain decisions which have this unfolding of many other decisions uh, which it contains, and one is not able to see that in advance. Uh, Lastly, I'm actually reminded of an interesting thinker called Henry Mintzberg. Uh, he has this interesting thing where he says that he's written about strategy and organization design. And he says that when you want to launch a business model or a product, you have a certain kind of framing in mind, what is the need gap, what is the pain point, or what is the need, what is the want, what is the ask. And then you design a sort of solution to fill that. And then you go out and implement it in the market. So at the outset, you have a broad hypothesis of what will work. As you go out, sometimes those things work out, sometimes something else surprises you and that has worked or not worked. So being open to the unfolding, which was not mentally grasped earlier, is as crucial, which he calls as emergent strategy. So there is this concept of deliberate strategy and emergent strategy. Deliberate is where you have deliberated on it and things have unfolded. But if you're not aware, then you will lose sight of what has not worked or what has worked differently, and that could become an emergent strategy. For example, Instagram is a case where it is said that Instagram did not start off as the tool or the platform that we know. It initially started by a guy who just wanted to create a best whiskey in town check-in app. And when he created this and invited the early users, uh, he just tried to look at what's the consumer behavior, what are people really doing. And to his surprise, he said that he saw that people are sharing a lot of photographs. And he says that's what people want to do. They don't want to, I mean, the ski check-in app is okay, but people want to share a lot of photographs. And that then blew up into Instagram that we know. People share a lot of pics created, taken on the platform. So that's a case of, somebody took a decision coming back to your point, somebody took a decision कि whiskey check-in app चाहिए, बना दिया, but was open that he could be surprised that what is working and not working, and then using that to come up with the next round of strategy. So I think decisions could be iterative. Like you take decision D1, implement, come back to the drawing board and see what is working, what is not. Then you come to decision D2, then D3, then D4, then D5. Um, so yeah, I mean, these are my initial thoughts.
I loved uh, the education that you gave on quite a few things. I didn't know about the Instagram story for sure. I thought it was a photo sharing app initially. Now it's more a communication thing among the Gen Z guys, and they have so like we have WhatsApp in our age group. They actually treat Insta like that very oftenly in terms of conversations, in terms of group forming and stuff like that, which also may have evolved over time, like you said. However, I want to stick to the core of the problem that I started with, which is personal agency taken for granted here. So that is the micro focus that I want to emanate this from. So if it is personal agency under consideration, and I am so let's hypothetically say that we are having this conversation and we've had these kind of conversations in the past. All of that has colored me in a manner where, okay, I can depend on you and we will both come to this platform and have a very insightful communication between each other and maybe help our audiences understand a little more about some aspect of uh, life is too big a thing, but some aspect of some knowledge, and they will have their own churning and they'll take home whatever they want to. The other part is, oh, I would want the podcast to be seen by a lot of people and they should uh, contribute to this noble cause of deeper thinking, if that is the word in my mind right now. Uh, and they should engage with a better way of living or whatever versions I have, which is a more long term and more umbrella thought about how the world should be perhaps. And this is what we need to do at the podcast level itself at this point of time. How do I come to a point which takes these two things into consideration? You did briefly talk about our past decisions influence our decision as of right now. Then there are other decisions that will be affected in the future, some of which we may be mindful of. But my question is more about scale, because the difference in scales may either overwhelm me or overexcite me, uh, depending upon how my mind frame is in the moment. So, how does one come to a mind frame which is more, uh, again, the term is mindful or rather aware of the stakes involved, at the same time, the immediacy of my action? Is there anything that one can do to uh, come to a median point which will at least give us some handle over it? It's only about action. Again, I'm aware that other influences may happen, and I am not. It's not an egocentric question. I hope I'm able to get that across. It's more how do I take a decision knowing these two factors, which one is long term, one is very short term action. How do these meet, if they meet at all, and what is my responsibility in that moment?
Uh, Couple of things come to mind, and I don't know whether they speak to what you're saying, and you can again bring us both back to the question. But let me just meander a little bit. I think in 1970s, 60s, I don't know when, Bell Labs in America used to be an extremely prolific research house, out of which a lot of innovations came that later became uh, significant parts of the communications that we have today. So all the telecommunication that we see, whether in terms of the dial phone, the push button phone, the cordless phone, the mobile, the internet. Uh, a good deal of the nuts and bolts of those came from Bell Labs in America. Uh, I remember a story narrated by Russell Akoff, a systems thinker, once, when he accidentally found himself in a review room of Bell Labs where he was not supposed to be. He just accidentally went there along with his friend and was sort of hiding his identity and just being low key in the meeting. It turns out that the person who was chairing the meeting asked the people in the room, what are the few significant technologies that gave rise to the then telephone industry in America? And people started counting three big research outcomes that led to the telephone industry in America then. And he asked them when were they invented. It turned out that all of them. So imagine he's having this meeting in 1960s or something. Okay, all the three inventions they pointed out came before 1900s. Now, it's an interesting question that, something so profound had taken place in the earlier century, but it took almost about a few decades for them to come to fruition and commercial application. If you look at the internet of today, all the Instagrams of today and Apple iPhone of today, one could easily trace back a huge amount of crucial components of the success of these technologies uh, to what was being invested in by the government research in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, when they were commercialized later by different business houses. Uh, so there is this nature where, and let's bring it back to your podcast now. If 15 years back, we would have met and we would have said, we will be doing a podcast 15 years hence. I think we would not even know what the word podcast is because I don't think the word podcast had come 15 years back. I think there is a sort of an interesting interplay between who we evolved to become and what our surroundings have evolved. And there is this dance and friction and facilitation that happens, and something emerges out of that interaction. So imagine this Zoom was not available. Imagine recording was not available. Imagine putting it out on a platform was not available. Imagine your mic wasn't available as a technology. So there are so many things that have been slowly coming to some stage of their evolution. And we are evolving to an evolution. So there is a co-evolution happening. So in the co-evolution, mic as a technology is evolving, but mic is in tandem with another technology, is in tandem with another technology. So there is an intra-evolution and an inter-evolution happening. Similarly, your intra-evolution and your inter-evolution with people around and conversations around and issuers around, all of them have a magical and unbelievable interplay out of which some things emerge in front of us to decide on, to choose upon. So I think the first step is to become aware that we are not the standalone human being that we think, that our boundaries are cut by the skin that we wear. Though there is this skin, there is the boundary, there is physical boundary, but it's not so
Individual.
it's not so individual as we believe it is, and yet it is. And that's the paradox we have to live with. I think as humans we want to solve all the paradoxes and ambiguity and get to some certainty कि ये है या ये है, एक बताओ मुझे, दोनों बात मत बताओ, दोनों हम कैरी नहीं कर पाते माइंड में. Our cognitive apparatus do not let us deal with paradoxes and live with paradoxes. We want to solve all of them. I think that's the first problem. I believe that we'll have to understand, because till the time we don't see them as feedback loops. We'll try to contain one and solve one and believe that the other will solve for itself. I don't think it's happening. And yet, And yet you can change yourself. This is also paradox. Much as people around you may not evolve, but you may evolve. So you're seeing again this tension, but we want to resolve it. We want to cut the cord. I think we want to cut the umbilical cord between the two, which gives birth to each other and is a mother of each other and child of each other. And I think that's something that we'll need to wrestle our minds with. Uh, and that's just where we will find that this whole word of personal agency, bringing back to the question that you asked, I think if we do not understand the boundaries and the non-boundaries of personal and the boundaries and the non-boundaries of agency, we might run the risk of oversimplifying it or prematurely cutting the umbilical cord and having a preborn thought, which will go out in the world and just run a lot of accidents or just be narcissistic, believing that they've got the world solution. Sorry for that long response.
Is it possible to kidnap you for a few days and dig into your mind?
Again, we'll do the same mistake, by the way, because you'll cut the umbilical cord and do that. See, I'm a wave. This moment is a wave, and I'm perhaps just a wave. I think the ocean is inside of me and outside of me, and if I try to contain it in a glass and believe that it'll perform like an ocean, I mean, take a glass of water. It has no property of an ocean except that it's water. It's only when you pour it in the ocean you see waves, right? So I think when we take them out, it has a different property. So
Um, I don't know whether you answered my question or gave me several questions to ponder upon, but it's a beautiful invocation in a in a very real way. I want to use the word radical, but then again, that kind of uh, it's radical because one doesn't think of it in that sense normally. Uh, and again, by all of these are loaded words. What is normal? What is radical? What is a thought? And what is my radical thought? So everything gets colored very fast. And but we are bound by language, and we'll try and stick to uh, the
it,
normally accepted uh, versions of it. Please.
yeah. So I just wanted to add that imagine, for example, hypothetically, going back to your personal agency, imagine today you decide that you will take a sannyas, hypothetically, right? Now, what does this whole act of taking sannyas mean? It would mean a multiple things, you can't even define a whole lot of them. So one of it would be that you would be physically cut off from the people you know, that they can't have you dependent on their psychological, social, physical needs, economic needs of the future, and you cutting yourself off and going to a place. To that extent, you have personal agency. But what will happen is, uh, what happens before you take that decision, right? There is a lot of processing that will happen, perhaps, or there is a very clear, very clear calling, and that light is so powerful that you don't want to see anything else because everything else either looks darkness or light of different kind, and then you proceed on that journey. And if you're able to live with that decision after having proceeded, then it's okay. But if not, then your mind will continuously, what is happening to that person? Is he getting along? What is happening to this person? Is he eating well? Is he taking medicines on time? Oh, there was this memory, a nostalgia, right? So even if physically you cut off, mentally you're still embedded and networked in their memories and expectations of each other, right? That plays a role in your decision also. So long as you're able to become aware of the web of relationships that we have with things and people and situations, past and future, and become aware of how they're influencing your current experience and expectation, and then take that agency of, and yet I can still decide and live with that decision. Uh, Sorry, this may have confused you a little more, but it was
No,
important that, okay.
I don't think. I think none of what you say confuses me. I am just concerned that we go into several possible layers of thought at one go, and whether the podcast itself can handle it, I have no clue, in the sense of our own agencies being limited in terms of expressing ourselves, and people what they bring into this kind of conversation. Some of them may be watching this, some of them may be uh, listening to an audio version of it, and with the video also being available and the mode that we've chosen, so the person who's speaking is visible, the other person's reaction is not being seen. So again, everything keeps on being perceived in a manner which is limited because of several factors. um, my question is now completely out of the blue on this one. So you say the light is so strong that the calling becomes very clear. Um, I want you to ponder a bit with me aloud uh, on a connection that you said elsewhere. What I took home from what you explained in the last answer, specifically the added part of the last answer, where I thought you're breaking down the I. So I am not only my mother and father's son, my sister and brother's brother, somebody's friend, and some college educated person, and knowing this language or that, living in a certain place or not, vegetarian or non-vegetarian or whatever aspects have come to. So you've kind of broken it down for us, and you're saying that when you're about to take that decision, even if you're mindful that you are not just you are a combination of several factors, and you're just mindful, okay, let me just think this through and perhaps choose the perspective as much as is possible. I don't think every decision it might be possible, but when I want to, or at least I access that knowledge for a little while. My question to you is, when the light hits you and the calling is so clear, a lot of these boundaries vanish. How does Hemant, the person who has so much knowledge about the world, because this was something else I was thinking about you while you were answering something, that you know so much. So the language is there, the words are there, you're a corporate type guy, you know how to contextualize it in a certain manner that is acceptable to a few of us who understand this. So it's not that all people who know English and who know English well will understand what you're saying. They may just not be either interested or get what you're saying, and all the flaws that we have as medium to communicate anything. But my question is, again, personal agency I don't want to go away from, because it's not the agency part but more personal, because with all my understanding, the limitations of the form are overbearing many times. So I will want to not go out of that. So when the light hits me, I am very clear, and yet there is a world of knowledge that I can access, that I've already lived and understand with my limitations also. So I am limitless within my limitations also. And what is coming to me is far more limitless than I've ever understood. And it just pulls me out of all the other versions of limited understanding I have, and says कि अब sannyas. So while what you said is right, कि I may go back to uh, some memory, some chosen one, some unchosen one, some emotion, some whatever has been in the past. But that again is the truth of that moment. Right now, the moment we move away from this moment, then the new moment has arrived and the new experience has already started unfolding. So I don't want to burden it with that as of right now. Still a future hypothetical chance that I may be alive and having all these experiences that you mentioned. Even if I want to believe it fully, it is only imagination. It's not a truth. Uh, it's not even a Maya wala truth, the one that we are having right now. Because it's pure imagination. इधर कुछ फिजिकलिटी ऑफ फॉर्म दिखता है तो मैं परसीव करता हूँ शायद सच है, हेमंत ऐसे दिखते हैं, मैं ऐसा दिखता हूँ, मैं ऐसा बोलता हूँ, ये लैंग्वेज में ऐसा यूज करता हूँ. So all these things are influencing me. Where does the strength of certainty from that light come for you as a person? And I mean this as a very, very deep question on the smaller level also. So, for example, if you decided to say yes to the podcast today and we decided to have this conversation, uh, it's a very strong thing for you. It is an important thing for you. I do not think you would be mindlessly wasting a lot of time in irrelevant pursuits, mostly, as much as you can, perhaps. Obviously, there will be times when you will be doing something which is not in your control or which might be quote unquote nonsensical, but that's okay. So, how does this certainty affect us and how do we know it is certainty? And I want a personal answer rather than a hypothetical one. If you have, it would help uh, on the smaller decisions specifically again.
Uh, I think the last that you spoke is where we can begin the first. Uh, and tying it back to the deliberate and the emergent that we just spoke. I think, at least in my case, I've had several experiences where an awareness of uh, that I don't know what I'm getting into, what I'm going to speak, who I am interacting with, how much time will it take, what effort does it require, what skill does it require. But there is this increasing comfort with the uncertainty of it. And more often than not, what comes out of these adventures, wandering, is either creativity, insight, or just the sheer gratitude of being around on the planet and just walking with somebody along. Um, so I think that has increased over the period of time. Although yes, it's still I still choose, I still uh, have certain deliberate things, but then this increasing flexing of the emergent has been extremely helpful. That I don't know what's going to come out of this. And I think more than 90% of the time it has surprised me, or I have been only grateful. So for me, that's a good checklist for continuing to do what I do. Um, the second thing is about this concept of realization and actualization. One may have a moment of, one may have that intense experience of the infinite, of the inconceivable, the unperceivable, the indescribable. And that intensive realization may ultimately not be able, the person may or may not be able to actualize it in their daily life. What I mean by that is sometimes that intense realization is such that it just makes everything around meaningless, useless, trivial. And the person may disengage, still continue in the world, but be very disengaged. Some people may have all of this and they will withdraw from the world and cut off from the world, the sannyas that I talked about. Somebody will be able to see that this is the path, that disengagement is not the path, the engagement is the path. The engagement with the people is the path. To raise their consciousness is the path. To be along with them and walking them home is the path. If you know the home, if you're walking the home, then you just walk along the person is not home yet, and they're just wandering out, and they don't know that they're wandering out. They're wandering out on the next ambition, the next EMI, the next uh, creativity, the next whatever. And you just walk along and be around. So even in the spiritual pursuits of the past, there have been this idea of spiritual withdrawal or spiritual engagement. One can choose to do depending on their belief system, whether they want to spiritually engage with the world or spiritually withdraw from the world, depending on the belief system that they carry. Uh, I prefer the latter, spiritual engagement. Withdrawal to intensify my practice, sometimes yes. Uh, Lastly, I think uh, there is you can read all the books in the world. In fact, just this morning I was reading a page from the book titled Silence by Erling Kage, and the first line of that particular page, that chapter opened saying that most people, and this is verbatim what he is writing, right? Most people I've met know more than they need to live their 9 lives. So they already know a lot. The question is not about knowing. जानना इशू इतना नहीं है जितना एक्सपीरियंस करके और मानना है. जानना इज डिफरेंट फ्रॉम मानना. जानते बहुत लोग हैं और मानते मानते भी है फ्रॉम अ बिलीफ सिस्टम without an experience. But I think there is something that you have to uh, dive in, or maybe it just gets into your experience. So it doesn't remain a thing around here. You're living it, you're embodying it. उसकी practices हैं, उसको you have to intensify those practices, experiment with them, and over a period of time you realize that you have more integrity inside, uh, and you're able to live with some paradoxes, some ambiguities, some clarities, some failures, some success, some hope, some hopelessness, some meaning, some meaninglessness, and just continue this journey.
Um, I have two questions that came up. One is, does it ever happen that you are walking on the road and you see bhelpuri and say, "आज bhelpuri खाने का मन है"? Is the first question. Second question, are there any trivial things that trip you with all your knowledge where you feel cornered? Does that happen? And can you give us examples uh, which are relatable, not very specific to you necessarily, but something which is fairly trivial?
Yeah. Big yes. Big yes on all the kleshas that grip me every day. Avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. Avidya is arrogance of knowledge or illusion of knowledge. Asmita is false sense of identity and ego. Rag is desires, bhelpuri, dahipuri, kalingad, mango, whatever. Dvesh is jealousy. Abhinivesh is insecurity, and the final immortality, the thing to wrap your head, heart, hand around immortality. All of that, they definitely, I think they're a frequent guest. I am on their frequent dialer list, I can say. They dial me throughout the day. Sometimes I pick up their call, sometimes I don't. Sometimes I get spammed, I fall into the trap, and वो scam कर देते हैं मेरा. But I think the thing that I feel, so I think it's a long journey. I mean, I have maybe, I don't know, I have a long way to go before I can say that I've overcome them fully. I don't even know whether it's possible fully overcome. I think what I can say from my experience is it is possible to significantly overcome them over a period of time. And even if you're trapped and scanned by them, then your recovery is faster, your resilience is faster, you're more creative to handle them later. You're more grateful, forgiving, or humane to yourself and people around when you're scanned by them. And so, yeah, I think these are some things that are coming.
Thank you for being such a wonderful human being and sharing your thoughts with us again and again. It's quite humbling and fascinating, and uh, honestly, there are no words to describe the feeling when you speak about these things and uh, unravel, which are topics which are really difficult to understand many times. Uh, of course, one there are enough number of books on them and talks on them, and so many things can be experienced. Contextualization is difficult to come by sometimes. Uh, Spam list is not only relevant for you, I think all of us are very. Uh, I would go one step further. I am not only willing to be spammed. I think I, when it doesn't want me to, I go ahead and jump into it and say, "Come spam me." Uh, Very often I've seen that and look back. One of the things that helps me at times is a healthy laugh at myself and all this arrogance of, oh, so you know, let's just check this. My present attempts at the new business that I'm doing with all the heart and hard work and um, immensity of effort. Genuinely, there is um, absolute zero mindfulness is what came to me, because one is so occupied with what one is doing that one is mindless about everything else, uh, and yet when you do not uh, get the desired kind of results, I don't mean in only in terms of numbers and money and stuff, but the understanding that you expect from people, the experiences which you are sure is going to help a lot of people. And yet you got to be kind to yourself, you got to be patient with yourself, you got to be patient with the process. You uh, Today you've given a lot of inputs which are very very helpful to me personally, because those wires have to be seen. So if one of those Hulk kind of movies, if you were to look at behind the scenes and those are creating and there are those tens of thousands of wires. So while I am overpowered by the Hulk some days, that I think I am and I can crush the world with my goodness and whatever holy and sacred ideas I carry on my head about myself. But there are times when you look at the wires and it says कि हाथ चल रहा है, आँख चल रही है, ब्रेन चल रहा है, चलने दो जैसा भी है अभी, जो होगा होगा, वो बिल्डिंग पैर पे गिरेगी, सर पे कोई फोड़ेगा, कुछ होगा, चलने दो माने. So today you've given a lot of small workable points on the uh, de-egoing bit, if one were to try incorporating some of it. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your thoughts, and uh, like always, a beautiful conversation and so much to take home. Uh, Thank you for being there. Thank you for being there.
Thanks, Bunty. Thanks. Thanks.
Yeah.